works. And then I will start the share. Okay, well, let me again welcome you to this session. My name is Kevin Yee. I come to you from the University of Central Florida. My co-presenter Laurie is also at UCF, but unable to join us this afternoon directly. Our title, as you can see, is Converting Student Assignments to Develop AI Fluency. So I want to take a minute up front to explain a couple of things about how the session will go and its time frame. First of all, I'm planning to finish at the 25-minute point rather than 30-minute point. You cannot hear me. Why can you not hear me? That needs figuring out. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, thank you. And you've graphically proven my second point, which is that I can see the chat on a different screen. So I can try to monitor chat as we go. However, we're a little bit abbreviated, so I'm hopeful to leave time for questions in the end rather than too many questions in the middle. Okay, so let me advance a couple of slides here to go past my recording reminders, which recording is in progress. And was asked to include this slide because this keeps us honest with our sponsors for the event. The Future of AI is our sponsors. While the screen is up, though, I do want to say a little bit about where this topic came from, how Laurie and I got here. Laurie and I are two of the co-hosts of another Teaching with AI conference, one that takes place face-to-face in Orlando every year. It'll be in its second year this year. And as part of last year's conference, we put together a set of assignments that can be used directly in a classroom. We were thinking of a college classroom, but honestly, K through 12 works just as well. And we wrestled a lot with what writing would look like. So we're going to talk today in very specific and pragmatic terms, in terms of assignments that you can give. And the nature of the assignments are such that they're designed to show students what AI can do and gain some AI fluency as we define it in the process. I have only a couple of setup slides, so this is one of them. It's over a year old now since this report has come out, but as you can see, they were claiming as of a year ago, a quarter of all jobs will change as a result of AI. So we know that AI is not just going to be a nifty tool. It's going to have real world implications for the jobs that our students will be performing after they graduate. So there's a career readiness component to this that does fall into our laps as educators that I think we need to pay some attention to. So it's not probably going to be enough to just assume that the students get exposed to AI, assume that they get used to using it in ways that are productive. I think we can't leave that to chance. We're going to have to approach that with some intentionality. So I'll give you some tools with which to do that. First, this common phrase, don't even really know who originated it because it's been used so many times now. AI is not coming for your job, but a person who uses AI will be coming for your job. So this is a corollary to the previous slide that AI is changing everything and that it's not going to be enough for our students to just be able to use AI as the AI output. They cannot be just as good as AI, if that makes sense. If they're just as good as AI, if AI can do everything that you can do in a job, then frankly, you deserve to be replaced and will be replaced. So it's not just that you have to know how to use AI, you have to be better than AI in your future career. And so this is also informing where I want to go with the concept of AI fluency. So better than AI. So this is a framework or a format of our own devising. So there are many of them out there. In our case, well, let me just take you through these 6, actually. We view this as components of AI fluency. There'll be a link in a couple of minutes where you can get all of this written down to you. It comes in the form of a PDF, so you don't have to take notes on this directly. But number 1, fairly obvious. They need to know that AI is a word predictor, or generative AI is large language models are word predictors. Therefore, they hallucinate. That's part of what they have to understand so they know when to trust it and when not to trust it. It goes with number two. When to use AI and when not to use AI, because some things are better done as a browser search rather than just input into LLMs. Clearly, everyone's going to need to get better at prompt engineering. That includes us. I do have a quick couple of slides about prompt engineering near the end to talk about what we think effective prompt engineering looks like. And then four is perhaps the least obvious of this list. What four refers to is students will always need to learn new AI platforms and AI tools. All of us will. This is a permanent change. Not only that AI is now part of our lives, but the nature of AI itself changes frequently. Those of you who are doing this work know this. You're able to watch on a weekly basis how a new tool comes out or an update to an existing tool comes out and new companies get into the fray. So it is different from the last time we had a really big disruption like that. So in my mind, that would be the internet in the 90s, in my case, or in the 2000s for some college students. The advent of the internet meant we had to sort of change the way we think about things and change the way we access information. But it was one change. Like with the nature of the internet doesn't change from week to week, but the nature of AI does. And so lifelong learning is going to be a part of this. And as a result, the students have to actually value the AI itself instead of resenting it. So I'm tempted to include something from Bloom's affective domain, the emotional side of what we train students to do in terms of valuing AI as its own goal. 5 and 6 are highlighted. They go together. They refer to doing more than just what the AI can do. So you need to generate an AI output and then, quote unquote, do something with it. That seems to be the general advice of how many of us are tackling AI in the classroom these days. And it's related to what the students will need to do, what we're going to need to do as alumni, I guess, in the working world. AI is going to be there. They're going to have access to it. They're going to need to know how to generate its output, but then also to evaluate it and then add value to it on top of that. Thank you, Johnson, for the comment. I have heard that attributed to Sam Altman before. I've also heard it attributed to Tom Friedman and a couple of others. So for now, I'll believe you that it's probably Sam Altman, that everyone needs to know AI. So I've highlighted 5 and 6 because I believe this is what our bigger assignments are shifting into. So if you've previously been assigning essays, we've got real problems in assigning essays as if it's 1999 anymore, because the students will be using AI assistants. We probably can't convince them not to do it. There are surveys and national results about that I didn't include here, but students are going to use it whether we want them to or not. And we probably can't detect it. As many of you probably know, the AI detectors are problematic, and so we shouldn't be relying on them for academic integrity purposes, which really means that if we're assigning writing, students can probably use a large language model and have it assist or even generate the first draft or generate the final draft, who knows? And there's not much we can do about it. So some version of leaning in where we're asking them to generate the content as part of the assignment is what many instructors are doing to replace those big assignments, to replace the essays. But I leave everything on screen because all of it needs teaching. And in my mind, a lot of these can be taught through discussion board questions and assignments. So, but I'm starting to see some commentary in the chat on this that all writing that you might assign students is going to need to be rethought to the point where there are moments that I think to myself, well, the take-home essay is dead. Like, how are we ever going to do this and know that the students put in their own work? Or maybe we move beyond caring that they had assistance and just assume that that's part of the process now. The way we no longer freak out about spell check or Grammarly, for that matter, which also uses AI. Okay, this is also a slide of our own making. On the left, you will see a collection of skills that large language models are good at. I especially lean on summarizing, brainstorming, and outlining, although drafting is an important part of that. So everything associated with many of the tasks associated with writing that would have in the past been our rationale for why we're assigning essay grades or essays, for instance. And then on the right-hand side are the things that humans are good at, that the large language models are not good at. Now, the large language models, because of their very nature, they will claim to do these things, but they're not very good. So when it provides an analysis, it's often shallow, not deep. When it can provide a critique, but it's those of us who are familiar with the common ChatGPT, for instance, output, we know it sounds a certain way, and that's not particularly deep the way we're training our students to think. I want to keep this in mind because part of rethinking assessments means recognizing the things that the LLMs are good at, the large language models are good at, and not bothering with that anymore, right? So if we're going to end up replacing essays with, I don't know, something else like an assignment to research something and then give an in-person speech about it, then we should be assuming that students are getting help with brainstorming, with getting help with outlining, or even summarizing things, right? I don't think that it's realistic to assume that students will steer clear of powerful tools that give them an early advantage. But we do need to keep an emphasis on what humans add to this mix. So when on that previous slide, when I said adding human value, this is part of what I mean, is that we need to think through what humans can do that the LLMs are not good at, and make sure that we lean into those. Okay, so that will especially be true for the larger assignments, a little less true for the smaller ones that I mentioned might speak to AI fluency through discussion board assignments. All right, here's that promised link. So part of that first Teaching with AI conference in Orlando we did last year was, well, the folks in my office, we wrote a book. It's open source, it's free, it's there for you to download. You can either type that bit.ly or pull up a QR code, pull up a camera to scan that QR code. I didn't think to put this at the end of the slides today, but I'll maybe come back to the slide when that moment comes. And this book is really going to be the basis of the next 5 slides that we're going to talk about. The book offers 60 or so assignments that are sort of plug and play, ready for you to use to help students understand what AI systems, generative AI can do for them. It teaches the lessons little by little, and I think this will become a little bit more clear as we go through them. So what I've got on slides is a much more simplified version of what you can find if you actually follow this link or follow the QR code. Okay, so this is the first such example. Create an assignment that forces students to engage ChatGPT in a conversation. So let's presume that students have no idea what generative AI can do, and they've only heard from other people that it can do certain things. The first time you approach a large language model, you might not recognize that the whole prompting can go back and forth. Like you can basically treat it like a conversation you would have with another human. So you ask it to generate something, and then it does it slightly wrong. You could say, no, that's not what I mean. I mean this instead. And then do that again, except now clarify that it should be written at a 9th grade level or whatever. So if you have students perform an assignment directly in your LMS discussion board where they're being told to engage a large language model in a conversation, and I give them a very explicit prompt that says, paste this into ChatGPT and then respond to what it gives you as output and ask for further detail on one of those sub-bullets, that sort of thing. So it's leading students through something that is somewhat obvious, but drives the point home a little bit better because they're living it, they're experiencing it. Instead of us just saying, hey, you can use large language models like it's a conversation, this gives them grades to do it. And so that's my bias built in there, that most students will go in one ear and out the other unless they recognize that they're getting a grade for it. Okay, on to the second one. Require students to verify the existence of quoted sources from the LLM via the institution's library website. So put another way, this is really about hallucinations. And so early in the semester, I give students a particular prompt, and I don't just say what you see on screen here. I say something specific to that class. I say, paste this exactly into ChatGPT or whatever, and then paste the output that it gives you. So the output I'm asking for is perhaps some sort of summary of research, but then specific citations as well. And then paste those citations, and then go look at the library's website and go look up those citations and give me a report right here on the discussion board about, was the first one real? Was the second one hallucinated, et cetera. So students found this when I gave this assignment last year quite eye-opening. They didn't realize how much hallucination was going on. Excuse me. This is one topic that will vary quite a bit based on which tool you were using and the nature of how you're logged into the tool, if at all. So for instance, when I first did this assignment, I was telling students to use ChatGPT and the open internet, which was forcing them to sign up for a ChatGPT license, a free one, which requires them giving their cell phones. So there's a privacy issue with that. Our university then has since then gotten a license with Microsoft Copilot, and our version of Copilot is a walled garden, quote unquote. So it doesn't phone home, it doesn't train the model. It's more safe for students to use and interact with. However, this version of Copilot, the walled garden version, will only give sources that it finds on the open internet rather than academic journals. Even if you specifically ask it for peer-reviewed academic journals, it doesn't do it anymore. In fact, our version of Copilot refuses to write an essay. It's got some guide rails in it now. And so the AI tools they continue to evolve, they continue to change, they try to put guide rails in place, but that the guide rails, while they're appreciated, can sometimes have unintended consequences. So I didn't prep a slide on this, but several months ago, let's see, it was Gemini, I believe, that changed its programming because it recognized that when asked to create imagery, it always defaulted to white men and women. So like if you ask it for a college classroom, there would be white males, white females, and probably a white male teaching the class. And they put some guide rails in place to make it not do that automatically. As a result, and many of you probably saw this on the news, some enterprising people were able to force the AI software to generate images that were, let me phrase it, illegally racist. So they had asked it for images of Nazis, and what came back were sometimes people like a Black person wearing a Nazi SS uniform, or a Japanese person. So it's unintended consequences occur, unfortunately. So let me go on from there to the next slide. Direct students to, this is interfering here, to create an argument in the large language model and then identify any logical fallacies. So this is one of many examples from the book that is a version, a variation of generate an output and then, quote, do something with it. So in this case, generating the output led to looking at how right or wrong it was. But you could look at it for bias. You could look at it for incompleteness. You could look at it for shallowness, right? There's if it's a programming code you're having it generate, right? You could look at it for whether it compiles or what mistakes it makes, syntax errors in code. It doesn't really make syntax errors with essay type language. Okay, and encourage students to brainstorm ideas about their essay topic using the large language model. So this is, again, back to that slide playing to the LLM strengths, where it's good at outlining, it's good at brainstorming. I think having students have that as a discrete assignment where they're going to get points for it gives them that freedom to use the LLM instead of being told to fight against it or resist it, as they're being told in many other classes. I think AI fluency is all of our jobs. It's not something we can leave for, a first-year seminar class to do for the students. It needs constant retraining in all of our classes, and especially within our disciplines. Like, no one's going to know how it's used in your discipline other than you. So I think that behooves us to talk to students about sort of the more advanced uses of AI, as well as these more basic ones. But as I've been explaining these, the majority of these specific topics are ones that you would use, as I said, in a discussion board for worth only a few points, so that are almost gimme grades, actually, so that the students recognize here's all the stuff it can do without just reading a list of stuff that it can do. They're rewarded with the points, basically. And the final one, let's see, I am missing what this is. Tell students to draft an opening paragraph with large language models to avoid the paralysis that accompanies a blank page, right? So this is called writer's block. I almost had it verbally there for just a second. And writer's block really ought to be a thing of the past, because as long as you have a topic you want to go in, you could get started with the large language model and adjust from there going forward. So this has ramifications and applications for us in our faculty life as well. We also shouldn't really have a blank page, the paralysis that keeps us on the writer's block for too long. Okay, so I believe maybe there's one more here. Require students to use LLMs to revise their final drafts using standard academic English. So just like Grammarly, which improves grammar mistakes and syntax mistakes, large language models can do the same. They can make someone who does not speak English as a native speaker, they can improve their draft as something that now sounds like a native speaker. So what we are doing is removing mechanics from the equation. So I know this may cause some humanities, some English, some writing instructors, some anguish to hear that we might be at that point that we're not thinking about mechanics anymore. Arguably, we're already there when it comes to things like spelling, because we have spell check and the autocorrection that happens with spell check. So in many ways, this is just sliding further down that same, I don't even want to call it a slope because it sounds so negative, but that same direction we've been going, where writing can be more about communicating ideas, where it can be more about investigating depth than about the mechanics of writing. And so the LLMs free us up to do that, frees the students up to do that as well. Okay, now I promised a couple of words about prompt engineering. Just as with AI Fluency, this is a creation of our own that we did not get from others. There are some good frameworks out there. Dan Fitzpatrick with the Create network. Oh, no, that's not right. Create comes from Dave Burse. Fitzpatrick has Prepare, I believe, is what he calls his prompt engineering acronyms. This is ours. And so capture is spelled out by each of these words. Context, why do we need the output? What's the desired tone, the attitude? What's the role play the LLM is supposed to do? What's the specific task? Give me the adjectives on what they're supposed to look like. Tell me what the output's supposed to look like in terms of requirements, and tell me how you got there. So I'll show you an example of that in just a second. First, I want to reorder those things. Capture came in a certain order so we could have the acronym, but it really boils down to three things. Giving the LLM a persona, telling it the context of why we're talking about this right now, and then what is the specific task. And so then the other elements are part of the task. So PCT, persona, context, and task is what really boils down to. So here's an example. And so you'll see that I've marked in yellow the persona, the context, and the task. They come up front. And then so I'll leave time for you to read this. Perhaps I'll leave this on screen while I go through final commentary, but you'll see that I'm giving the large language model a role play, and there's different ways of phrasing that, like please role play as I could have started with, right? And then I'm telling it that it needs to be prepared with detail so it can write an essay. And then I'm giving it the task of 5 examples. But then in the uniqueness, I'm asking it to explain what those 5 examples look like, and then what the output should feel like in terms of tone, and that it should be in bullet form, and all of those sorts of things. So this is an example of a detailed prompt that uses our capture methodology, so that it's not just a back and forth. It leaves a little bit less to chance, since you're asking the AI to keep a lot in mind right up front before it starts generating. Okay, so as promised, I'm at the 5-minute point here, and I'm going to pause to make sure to see if there are questions. I think what I might do is take the screen back to this slide that has the QR code and bit.ly on it. you can ask questions about what you're finding in that open source book if you would like, or you can ask questions about the specific examples we've talked about here, or even other things having to do with our system that that I might have just gone a little quickly over because I really wanted to make this a quick presentation. So I'm looking at the chat and waiting for any questions that come. You know, I might need to actually stop the screen share so I can see if there are hands raised and that sort of stuff. Apologies. Does the book have the CAPTCHA acronym explained? So, Maddie, I'll just let the cat out of the bag that there's another book coming in a couple of weeks that does have the CAPTCHA acronym explained. This book does not. That's something that I can say more about. Let me drop an email address in here so in case any of you would like to follow up with me with any of these questions that don't get answered or things that like if you would like additional details about the CAPTCHA prompt, I can just send you that chapter ahead of time before it comes out in that next book. What has been my experience with implementing these changes in assignments? So I've done it at a smaller scale, but my own classes haven't done it at the large scale yet. As late as last year, I had in the 2 classes I tried it in, at least one out of 20 students both times wanted to object to the assignments. They just didn't want to use AI. One of them because they were worried about privacy reasons and then they learned that we had a walled garden that was safe. And the other because they were a budding artist and thought that it represented danger to their future career. And so they did not, they didn't want to basically feed this juggernaut of using AI. But they ended up leaning into it by recognizing that AI is here to stay also for the artists. And so that's been really the only major hiccup. I think otherwise students are appreciative of learning the parameters of AI in this fashion that's done through assignments rather than just a lecture. RAS framework, yeah, I've heard about that as well for prompt engineering. What about the assignments you have had to change due to the introduction of AI into the assignments? So, or what about the assessments have I had to change? So, I teach a humanities class, and I teach on topics that AI would know answers to, things like Avengers movies or Hunger Games movies. But the nature of what we talk about in class, the interpretive tools that I give them are so deep that an AI, an LLM essay generated, it just does not match what a student themselves can write in my class. So I've not had to completely throw essays out entirely. I am talking to other classes where essays just basically need to be replaced. So if you're teaching English to speakers of other language, for instance, the perfect essay that comes out of LLM is the whole point. There's like no improving the output. It's already there. They're having to think about assignment types, formats that AI cannot replicate today. For the next couple of weeks, maybe at most, we could do video, let's say. But I'm going to lean more into face-to-face presentations. I'm going to lean more into a one-on-one interview, an oral interview at the end of the semester instead of a test. I think online has the hardest time of this, actually. And I think I don't have answers for you in online education, how you can have any certainty that the students are using critical thinking. Honestly, the closest we can come to that would be getting better at writing multiple choice questions that are like GRE questions that do higher order Bloom's taxonomy things through multiple choice, because that's about the only thing that we can have assurance that the students are not cheating on if we turn on the proctoring and so forth. I'm going to answer one more question about the walled garden. I guess someone has already answered it. But yeah, the walled garden means that it doesn't talk to Microsoft. Our use of Copilot is safe. It has no memory of what you just asked it 5 minutes ago. Yeah. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and formally end the recording and formally end the meeting because I know many of you are jumping off to another meeting at 4:30. Learning Revolution, I know you're here. Is this meeting room in use immediately, or can I still answer some questions? Okay, well, I'm not hearing from them. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions that are still there in chat, even though I know that the meeting has officially ended. I'm going to stop the recording.